All right, guys, let's break down this ad. This is gonna be a fun one. So the Wall Street Journal, this is the one that like theoretically back in the days what made this, like made the Wall Street Journal what it is today. Like the Wall Street Journal is, or at least for the longest time, was like the place to go for like financial news. This was the place. And a lot of it has to do with this particular sales letter that went out. The $1 billion letter, they call it. Did you guys get a chance to take a look at it? Yeah, cool. All right, so I'll start reading it and we'll pause and break it down as we do. So the title, like the headline of this letter is just the heading. It's just a headline, like almost just like a header, as in like, what's the word? Like stationary. It's like a stationary thing, like from like a law firm or something like that. They have like their heading up the top, the name of the organization, their address, all that stuff, right? It's not even that crazy of a thing. It's just the Wall Street Journal. Obviously, this is a genius name just for as far as a business goes. Like the Wall Street Journal is pretty intelligent move, right? They didn't call themselves the stock exchange, newsletter, or whatever. It's the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street has such a high significance in that world that it just like being able to say that they are based in the Wall Street Journal, and their address is the World Financial Center, Liberty Street, New York. Like that is an address people know during the industry. So this is like, first of all, before we even dive into the actual copy, like this is a smart move. Like whoever sat down and decided to create the Wall Street Journal, headquartered where they did, was thinking through this intelligently. So let's go ahead and start with the copy itself. So, dear reader, on a beautiful late spring afternoon, 25 years ago, two young men graduated. One sec, I gotta minimize this. There you go. Two young men graduated from the same college. They were very much alike, these two young men. Both had better than average students. Both were personable, and both, as young college graduates were filled with ambitious dreams for the future. Recently, these men returned to their college for their 25th reunion. They were still very much alike. Both were happily married, both had 3 children, and both, it turned out, had gone to work for the same Midwestern manufacturing company after graduation and were still there. But there was a difference. One of the men was a manager of a small department of that company. The other was its president. What made the difference? All right, so this is the classic story. They've laid the groundwork here. So I'm going to open it up for you guys. What do you guys see? What did they do well here? What do you see them doing here in this part? What's up? What do you got?
So they obviously paint the contrast, right? They paint the contrast of two students who started in the exact same place, two men who had the same starting path, but drifted drastically apart, right? So I dropped this insight in the experience chat earlier. It's like, imagine Josh, who was like your college drinking buddy, who used to like be awkward with girls, and now 25 years later, you're this small manager in the firm, but Josh has gone on to become president of the company. So it would feel pretty crappy to be the small department owner of that company, and look at Josh, essentially, who's the president, right? The big G amongst the crowd.
Yeah, so like the competition level there is key. Like this is a key component for motivating this, specifically this demographic, right? The ambitious young man, right? This is targeted for people who have graduated college and they're probably like 10 years out of college, right? They're still ambitious young men. That's the kind of people that read the Wall Street Journal. Ambitious old men too, but this letter was targeted for ambitious young men, right? For ambitious young men, the thing they care about more than anything else in this entire world is like winning competitions and winning and earning status. That is like number one on the top of their list, right? So this is very intelligently creating a scenario, a competition here. Maybe that doesn't really exist officially, or like, you know, these two men didn't stay in touch and like compete against each other and like write the other guy a letter, hey so and so, sucks to be you, I just got promoted again. Like this didn't happen, right? It wasn't an actual like official competition, but this creates the idea of competition where there really wasn't an official version of it in their mind. So now they have to compete. This is an opportunity for this particular demographic to be motivated by their greatest motivator, which is winning status through competition. It's absolutely brilliant. Amir, what do you got? Amir, you have your hand up. You have something to add to this? Oh, hand down. All right. What else do you guys have? What else do you guys see in the beginning of the story? Okay, so I'll fill it in, guys. There's a few of us. This is a nice, small, fun chat. So we can just kind of just take some time to go through this, and it's an open, easy discussion. So Yusuf, you said, I'm just pulling up the chat. Yusuf said, Avatar is described right from the get-go. Yeah. So this is like very much, it's calling out the person, whoever's reading this story is going to say, oh, this is a story about me, right? 25 years ago, two young men graduated from the same college, were much alike. These two men, better than average students, both were personal, and both these young college students were filled with ambitious dreams for the future. So one of the cool things about this right here is that he has removed any outside factors that would confound the experiment, because it's basically the experiment. You take two people that are identical twins, you give one the Wall Street Journal and one not the Wall Street Journal, and see what happens in 25 years, right? Now, if you were going to design an experiment like that, you would want to isolate certain variables like their grades, right? Theoretically, they're both the same kind of students. They're both personable. They both know how to talk to people. One's not autistic. One knows how to like actually talk. They all know how to talk to people, and both were ambitious and had like a high drive to move forward, right? Like they've removed all of those things, because if you didn't have those in here, if you just said, hey, on a beautiful spring late afternoon 25 years ago, two men graduated from the same college. Recently they returned for the 25th reunion. They were still a lot alike. They both had this, and this, but there was a difference. One was super successful, the other wasn't. The reader would immediately think, it's because one guy was just more ambitious than the other. He's probably one of those losers that I look down upon, right? And what this sales page is doing right from the beginning is it's stopping all of those objections that would happen and say, hey, like, yeah, sure, ambition's important. Being personal is important. Being a hard worker is important. But if you have those things, the next thing you need is the right information, and that is the Wall Street Journal, right? Like they've right out of the gate chopped off all the mental shortcuts the person is going to use in their brain, just trying to think how is someone to get their dream state, right? Because they're like, okay, to get rich and famous and successful, you need to be ambitious, hardworking, intelligent, right? They're gonna be thinking those three things in their mind, right? So if the reader thinks they've already got the answer to those questions, like they have the answer to the question of how do I get rich and successful, then they won't be interested in the letter. But what this letter does at the very beginning is say, oh yeah, those three answers that you have, yeah, they're not actually important. There's something more important on top of that, or there's something that's also important. So they're catching the reader where they are, and they're cutting off their normal avenues of escape from the sales, engaging in the sales process, and directing them towards this new point, which is really, really good move to do right from the beginning. Yeah, Chris, what do you got? Hilltop.
So something else I noticed now is with the third paragraph is if you read the last line, like on its own, like immediately you might have some objections, like, oh, the guy's president, but what if he doesn't have kids? What if he's fat and I'm athletic, right? But with the previous paragraph, they essentially set it up so that they at the exact same position, so they drive the attention towards ambition. They set them up for thinking about business, thinking about ambition, thinking about their careers right off the bat. And that's a good sort of mental frame to continue with what we're essentially going to get to in the rest of this letter.
Yeah, and this is cool, right? Like you said, they head to that next objection, right? Because if they didn't have that paragraph where they talk about being happily married and having children, like, and you were to read this and say one was successful and one wasn't, you'd say, well, the one who's successful probably made a bunch of sacrifices, probably divorced, doesn't have a happy family or whatever. Yep. But this is hedging that off again, saying, hey, no, this isn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, this highlights a really important, like, an additional process that you need to be thinking about in your copy as you're writing is experienced guys, right? Young guys, when they're first starting, it's not as big of a deal. There's bigger things they need to figure out. But once you kind of got those basics figured out, you need to start asking yourself, what are the objections my reader is going to be having to the ideas I'm putting forward, and how can I cut those off and like invalidate them or nullify them, right? Yeah, this is a brilliant move. He called out the avatar immediately. He created an interesting scenario. He cut off all of their escape routes from engaging with the copy, and he presented them with a really interesting hypothetical situation that is going to illustrate a very key point. Adam, what do you got? You got your hand up.
Hi, Andrew. I just wanted to ask a good question. Would you recommend to always sort of present like the claims that they present in the beginning, like to kind of counteract objections in the beginning of your copy, or would you, for like a sales letter, for example, or would you recommend to do it throughout the entire sales letter?
So what's interesting here is that he's not really directly addressing objections. He is subtly removing them from the table, right? People, you don't even like get to that objection because of how we set up the frame of the conversation. Those objections are outside of the frame of the conversation at hand, right? So it's not so much that you should start like literally addressing his objections at the beginning, because there's a point in time in the sales letter where you need to address objections they might still have. But what he's done in the beginning here is he's cut them off from even being a thing. He set up the situation, he set up the limits or the frame of the world to where those typical big giant objections are gone, right? It's so you should be thinking about objections and writing while still being aware of those objections, but you don't necessarily need to explicitly call them out at the very beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Good question. All right, so he set the stage. He's done this question, or he's done this hypothetical, and then he hits them. But what made the difference? Now, this is a key line. This is a super amazing line. He follows it up with sort of a secondary version of the same question. Have you ever wondered, as I have, what makes this kind of difference in people's lives? This question. Now, this is something that I've seen a few other copywriters talk about. I've seen the greatest copywriters in the world do that and execute this really, really well. And it's called the what are some? It's, if you can ask them, it's called asking a paradoxical question, right? So if you ask it doesn't necessarily have to be about a paradox, but if you can ask a question that gets their mind spinning, and it's like a riddle that they're trying to solve, and it's connected to something they really, really care about. It's a fascination type, but if you use it correctly at this stage in a sales letter, or at this stage in a sales conversation, they will show up and they will listen to the rest of it like 100%. They will engage entirely with the copy. I'll find some other examples, and you guys probably know a few from just some of the work you guys have done. But asking this type of question right here in the lead is one of the best ways to engage, like to ensure that they will engage with the rest of your content, right? This is what preps them to receive the discovery story, to receive the red pill that you're about to drop on them when you shift their view of reality, right? This is an extremely powerful question to start including in your copy. You can straight up copy this Wall Street Journal format and do the two people story. Like, that's a cool way to do it. I've done that a lot and with a lot of my clients and stuff. But there's a lot of different ways you can ask what's called, paradoxical questions, right? Have you ever wondered, what makes this kind of difference in people's lives, or why is it that children can learn their first language so easily, while it takes adults like years to learn a new language, right? Like, there's a lot of different types of questions you can ask that kind of make the person pause and think and realize they don't understand the world as well as they think they do. They don't know the answer to that question, and then they become receptive to answering that, to learning those answers from you. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand what I'm trying to talk about when I'm saying this paradoxical question, or this type of question type? Does that make sense to you guys? Any questions about that? Yes? No? We good? Am I speaking gibberish?
We're good.
All right. Let me pull the chat. So I've got my little laptop screen today, not the full thing. Let me just check. Amir said something about the last line. He said let's take a look at Amir's comment from before, and then we'll move on here. So I was going to say the last line of the one being a manager, the other being a president, naturally creates intrigue and makes the reader wonder what the more successful guy did to become the president. Also ties desire of the avatar. They want to be the big president rather than a little manager. So they want to know the formula to success. Yeah. One of the cool things to notice here real quick before let's jump back, and we'll jump back forward. So if you were just to say he's the manager of a department of that company, and if that's all you said, you're comparing it to zero, you'd be like, oh, he's kind of successful, right? But when you compare someone who's the manager of a small company or a small department to a president, it's 9 days. The guy looks like a failure, an utter and complete failure. He still did okay. He didn't fail in life. Like, he still moved up in the world, but it wasn't nearly the same because of what we're comparing it to, right? This is how you play with people's perception without actually changing the actual value. You can make something look big or small just by what you compare it to, right? $100 compared to $1 seems like a lot, but $100 compared to $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 is nothing. It's zero. It's infinite. It's nothing. It's zero, right? So yeah, this is a really easy way to show to show this. And again, it's because the point is these guys are ambitious, right? You want to reinforce the idea that like just being okay and like marginally successful is not enough. You need to be super, super amazing successful if you want to be fulfilled, right? And that's what these guys actually think. And the part here really defines that, right? It highlights that core belief that they have, the avatar has. And then they sink the hook, right? Like, I don't know if any of you guys have been fishing, but if you go fishing, you know, and you cast your line out there and the fish like nibble on the bait, you're like, okay. There's a moment where you sink the hook, right? Where you jerk the rod back and you wait till they're nibbling on it and you jerk the hook back and it hooks in the fish's mouth and you got them, right? This right here, this kind of question, this paradoxical question is sinking the hook, right? What made the difference? Now the guy has to sit there and he has to read the rest of it until he gets the answer to that. He cannot walk at this stage. The guy can't, no human being, no avatar can walk away from the sales page without reading the rest of it because they need to know the answer to that question, right? Like they're there, they're hooked. You've got them, you've won. They're yours forever, right? So now that you've got them hooked, now we're going to see how he stacks on top of it, how he capitalizes on completely capturing these people's attention. Do you guys see this? Do you guys understand this, like sinking the hook idea? Does that make sense? Have you guys been trying to do this in your writing? Have you thought about the idea of sinking the hook before? Is this something you guys have thought about before?
Is this similar to open loops?
Yeah. So like, yeah, you're definitely opening loops as you go through that lead. And we've talked about that before. You need to kind of bribe the reader to keep going. But this is sort of a level beyond that, right? We've got a few hooks, we've got a few questions in their mind, but we've really sunk this one, right? And that's because we've added a significant level of emotional investment into understanding the answer to this one. And this one is the crux. This is like we've honed into like that one point in like the universe, like the if-then law. Like there is one thing that's going to make a difference between being a small manager after 25 years or being the president. And it is one thing, and we've highlighted it. And it's the one thing they care about. And like that result, being ultra successful, is the one thing that this person cares about more than anything else. And we've highlighted it to one tiny thing. And it's a punchline right there, that part of the copy. This is more than just an open loop. This is something more. We've sunk the hook. Like we've got them. Like at this point, it's different between like, this is different than if they were to just say, keep reading and I'll share some of the things that can help you be successful too in your life. Like that wouldn't have sunk the hook. The way this is done, the punchiness of it, the clearness of it, the fact that it's filed down to one idea makes it to where you own the reader at this point. They have, like, if they read that far in the letter, they're yours and they're going to read the rest of it. Do you see the difference between just opening a loop? You know, if you keep reading, I'll reveal this, I'll tell you my story, all that stuff. This is so much more finite and potent in such a smaller amount. So someone with a complicated name said the difference is that the bribe loop was open after a paradoxical question. Yeah, he stacked some curiosity after this, but that paradoxical question, the what made the difference, like what is it that makes the difference between these two people? It's not really a paradox, but like I've heard people refer to this type of question as like a paradoxical question. Yeah, this is the punchy thing where I'm gonna take some time to think of how to explain this better, but for me, the best analogy is thinking of it as like sinking the hook. You've actually connected with the reader. I've done it. I know how to do it. I'm gonna learn how to explain it better for you guys. But that's it's a little bit different. This is kind of more, and we'll see how he stacks additional loops or opens more loops as we go through this letter. But this is a little different than just opening some loops or bribing the reader to keep reading. This is forcing the reader to do so because you capture their mind, right? They're caught.
I think something that's quite important is the moment when he does it, right?
Yeah.
So he does it right when he hits you with the plot twist, right? Right when he hits you with the actual sort of the little niche in the story, the little twist, right? So you're reading a story about these two people, but then you actually get to the climax, the peak of the story, right?
Yeah.
Where the actual reveal of what you're actually getting into happens. And that's when they drop the question, right? At the peak of the story where your interest is at its highest, and you just realize that there's a twist to it, right?
That's the best time because that's when the reader's most vulnerable to suggestion, right? They're in overload. They're just like, what? Their mind is partially blown. Like their conscious mind is reeling. So that's when you can slide in that hook into the subconscious mind of what made the difference. Now they have to know. You've instilled that curiosity and you've kind of slipped around their conscious mind's defenses because you've lowered it because they're reeling slightly reeling because of the plot twist, like you said at the end. Perfect timing, right? It's like if you throw an uppercut and lift a guy's head up, he's perfect. He's ready for that overhand right, like that crashing overhand right. It's very similar, right? The plot twist lifted the head up, got the person all confused, bam, open that overhead right, sunk the hook. We own this guy, right? It's beautiful. All right, let's keep going. So he says, have you ever wondered, as I have, or like me, this is him trying to build rapport with the reader. He's trying to say that you and me are the same. You know, you're a normal person like you and me. We're both the same. We both thought about this question. What makes this kind of difference in people's lives? It isn't a native intelligence or talent dedication. This is the not statement. He's stacking curiosity still, right? It isn't a native intelligence or talent or dedication. It isn't that one person wants success and the other doesn't. The difference lies in what each person knows and how he or she makes use of that knowledge, right? So this is the part where he is reshaping a belief. He's instilling a new one, right? He's saying it's not all of these things that you think it is. Obviously, you need all of those things to be successful, right? Anyone who's reading this is intelligent enough to know, yeah, you still need to do those things, right? He's not saying you don't need those. He's saying in addition to that, you need to have the right knowledge and use that knowledge, right? You know, so he's saying if you want to get what you want, if you want this kind of difference in your life, then you need the right kind of knowledge and how to make use of that knowledge, right? That's what he's saying is the key to success, right? The key to getting what you want. If then, this is an example of that if then, right? So now he's got their attention. He's promised them something that they want. He's commiserated slightly with their pain. In this case, he's almost focusing entirely not on their pain, but something that they want. He's hinting at the idea of failure, being like a low-level middle manager in a Midwestern manufacturing company is like the bad outcome that you don't want to have. You want to be the president. You want to be this mid-level manager or whatever. But he's almost entirely focusing on something they want, and he's showing them that the key to get what they want is by having the right knowledge and making use of that knowledge. So he's completed the first part of the sales. The first half of the sales page is done. Now he's going to present the Wall Street Journal as the solution that best gives you, or the best vehicle for instilling that knowledge and how to apply that knowledge into your brain. Let's see how he does it. And that's why I'm writing to you and people like you about the Wall Street Journal. This is for you and for people like you. This is for like-minded people. This is your group, right? But that is the whole purpose of the journal, to give its readers knowledge they can use in business. A publication unlike any other. Okay, so he's now introduced the product. Let's see what he does here. So a publication unlike any other. You see, the Wall Street Journal is a unique publication. It's the country's only national business daily. Each business day, it puts together by the world's largest staff of business news experts. Each business day, the journal's pages include a broad range of information of interest and significance to business-minded people, no matter where it comes from, not just stocks and finance, but anything and everything in the whole fast-moving world of business. The Wall Street Journal gives you all the business news you need when you need it. Now, this is just kind of a brief overview, brief intro of the product. It's just kind of saying some of this. A lot of you guys mentioned in the chat that like the benefits that it provided, or the things that the way it described itself was kind of vague, non-specific. And I would kind of agree with that. We're going to keep seeing how he stacks and overcomes that problem, though, because I mean, he is being fairly vague here. It's like, oh, it's business information. It's all kinds of business information. But we're going to see how he presents this as being useful. Something to notice is he's doing the he's got these little subheadlines. What makes the difference? A publication unlike any other. Knowledge is power. The first thing he's trying to do right here is overcome the objection of, oh, this is just another business newspaper like anyone else. He's trying to say, hey, we're not like that way because we do other things. We talk about things besides just talking finance. We've got this large staff. We're super different or whatever. Let's see how he sinks home the benefits though. Knowledge is power. Right now, I'm looking at page 1 of the journal. Now, this is an intelligent way to do this, right? Because now he's taking them on a journey through the experience of reading the Wall Street Journal. Right now, I'm looking at page 1 of the journal, the best read front page in America. Hold on 1 second. It combines all the important news of the day with in-depth feature reporting. Every phase of business news is covered. I see. 1 second. Guys, if you're not talking, go ahead and mute yourself. 1 second. Yeah, we're good. So every phase of business news is covered. I see articles on new inflation, wholesale prices, car prices, tax incentives for industries, to major developments in Washington and elsewhere. So this is intelligent, right? Because he's giving them a snapshot of what they would expect. He's teasing. This is almost like a series of fascination bullets where he's giving them a sneak peek into what it's actually like, what the experience is like, and he's giving them just enough of an idea of what they can expect that their mind is filling in the blanks and they can see the benefits of each of these pieces of information, right? Do you guys have any comments on this? This right now, I'm looking at the page 1 of the journal. This little tour through the journal. Do you have any ideas or anything you want to highlight here?
Yeah, I like the way he says it, because it's not like a general description. It's not phrased as the page 1 of the journal is the best read front page of America. There's articles on new inflation, wholesale prices, etc. It's right now, I am looking at the page. I see articles on new inflation. It's like the wording makes you like visualize what's going on the page better. Right.
Yeah. It's visual, right? This forces the reader into an experience, right? If it's not just information, he's forcing them into an emotional experience. I mean, it's not that emotional. It's like, oh, wow, this is crazy. I'm so excited. I'm reading this page, but like he's forcing them into an experience. They see the page. They're imagining the Wall Street Journal. They're putting themselves in their mind in a situation where they're already reading it. This is a version of future pacing, right? They're already prepping themselves to the idea of them reading this journal, right? By following along as he reads this. They're imagining the paper, they're imagining the headlines, the sections, all that stuff, right? It's really intelligent here.
And it makes it more personal because it doesn't say you'll get articles on inflation. It makes it personal by saying, I see, you know? So it puts the image in the reader's mind.
Yeah, and I've seen people do this like when they're previewing courses or whatever. Instead of saying like right now I'm looking at page 1 of the journal, they're like, let me give you a sneak peek into the table of contents, and they have screenshots of like the actual contents inside the course. And it's not like the actual information that's going to help them be successful, but it's just curiosity bullets or like little pieces of specific information that gives them enough of an idea that they're like, no, I need that. I need this thing to see. I got to see the rest of it, right? Like they've imagined themselves. They can imagine themselves owning this and using this, and now they have no just enough about what's inside. They have to keep learning more. I think it's an intelligent move. What other thoughts? Any other thoughts before we move on? All right, let's go to the next part. So, and there is page after page inside the journal filled with fascinating and significant information that's useful to you. So now he's stacking it, right? He's saying, oh, that's the first page. There's pages and pages and pages of that. You know, there's 10, 12, 20 pages of this that you can get every single day, right? He's going to list another part here. The marketplace section gives you insights into how consumers are thinking and spending. That's key, right? If any business owner had insights into what the consumers are thinking and spending, that's money for them, right? That's going to allow them to shift their business one way or the other. That's going to allow them to, that's extremely useful and pertinent information for the target audience. Let's see. How companies compete for market share. There's daily coverage of law, technology, media, and marketing, plus daily features on the challenges of managing smaller companies, right? So again, this is the avatar. The avatar is a young, ambitious young business person who's working in a smaller company, probably who wants to be big and famous and do big, great, amazing things. The Wall Street Journal tells him all this relevant information that's going to be helpful for him be successful where he is now, but it's also giving him where he wants to go. This is genius. The journal is also the single best source for news and statistics about your money. In the money and investing section, there are helpful charts, easy to scan market quotations, plus abreast of the market, heard on the street, and your money matters. 3 of America's most influential and carefully read investment columns, right? So these section titles are basically like they're fascination bullets, right? Abreast of the market, heard on the street, and your money matters. Like all that stuff, like they can kind of imagine what's in there. They know it's going to be useful. Their own wealth and their own wealth management is extremely important to them. So this is a powerful thing. They're curious about what's in that. They can kind of have some guesses, but they don't really know, and they need to know. So they're going to subscribe to the journal to find out. Now they've done this again. This is like the second time they've done this, where they say 3 of America's most influential and carefully read investment columns. He does something similar earlier, where he says the best read front page in America. He's trying to say that like this is safe in some way. He's trying to say that, hey, this is socially proven by your peers, right? This is extremely successful. This is big. This is America. This is the best read front page in America. This is the, how did he say it? You know, this other section. Most influential and carefully read investment columns. He's trying to signal other people's behavior. He's trying to say, hey, every other serious person in the world is reading this. Why aren't you? Right? It's an intelligent move. Someone had their hand up. What are the questions? We went over a big chunk of stuff here. What are your guys' thoughts on it? Any questions? Any ideas?
So this last bit there, if you've never read the Wall Street Journal, you cannot imagine how useful it can be to you. Like, if I was the owner of this journal or whatever, I'd probably get like a famous businessman of the time to make like a testimonial or some sort of a statement about the validity of this sentence. So how is it actually useful? Who's the people that actually read this? Is there a real person, somebody I look up to as a young business owner, who can confirm the validity of this journal? Like, that's something I had in mind when I read that last
Yeah,
time.
there was a quote here that's like from like Warren Buffett says, the first thing I do every morning is read the Wall Street Journal. It's helped me make my decisions over my 20 years of my career, whatever, right?
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, people would be like, yeah, I'm ready to buy this thing, right? Or even if it was from some average person who's like, I read the Wall Street Journal and it contributes to 20% of my portfolio growth every year, right? Like if someone anybody said anything here to back that up, it would be a little more powerful. This is a cool line though. This is a good line. If you have never read the Wall Street Journal, you cannot imagine how useful it can be to you. Now, this is a pink elephant line, guys. You guys have heard me talk about the pink elephant, right? You don't do, if you say to someone, don't think about a pink elephant, the first thing they're going to do is think about a pink elephant, right? If you tell someone you cannot imagine how useful it can be to you, the first thing they're going to do is imagine how useful it can be to them. Like that's exactly what they're going to do next here. So if you've never read the Wall Street Journal, that's me. Like whoever's getting this, getting this page, right? Okay, that's me. You cannot imagine how useful it can be. Wait, I am going to imagine how useful it is going to be to me. If they're doing that, they're selling to themselves. Do you see what I'm saying? Like this is a genius, sneaky, persuasive line. This is the scary, secret, persuasive stuff we talk about here in the experience section that the guys in the beginner and intermediate aren't ready for, right? Yeah, this is some fun stuff here, right? Like you said, he could back this up, and that would be cool. We could add some additional proof, but as is, this is a potent line. I like it. A money-saving subscription. So American businessmen are notoriously the idea of saving money and being frugal and wise with their spending is an extremely important cultural value for this avatar. And so by framing this as a money-saving subscription, they're playing into that. One second, there's something in the chat. I want to make sure it's good. Yeah, literally incepting their minds. Yes, this is Inception. This is better than Inception. This is what you can all do as copywriters. You can incept ideas in people's mind like that. This is high level stuff. But anyways, yeah, so a money-saving subscription, he's framing it as something that a frugal, wise, intelligent American man would do. Let's see how he does it. So he says, put our statements to the proof by subscribing for the next 13 weeks for just $44. This is among the shortest subscription terms we offer, which is probably not the shortest. It's among the shortest and a perfect way to get acquainted with the journal. Or you may prefer taking advantage of our better way, 1 year for $149. You'll save over $40 off the cover price of the journal. So we fill out the enclosed order card and mail it to the postage paid envelope provided. Real quick, let's talk about the way they've done the pricing here. So put our statements to the proof. So he's basically issuing a challenge, right? Like you can figure it out, like see if I'm full of it. Like order it, see if I'm full of it. There might be a guarantee at the end. I actually haven't read, I haven't looked at this last part in a second. There may or may not be. But anyways, $44 theoretically for their avatar shouldn't be that big of a deal. He's presenting it as if it's just $44. Like it's so freaking affordable. 13 weeks. This is the shortest subscription terms we offer and a perfect way to get acquainted with the journal. He's making it seem as this is nothing. And then he's anchoring it. He's then throwing an additional option. He's making it seem like $44 significantly less because the next number he's providing is $149, right? I might have done it the other way around. Personally, I probably would have said, hey, take it, like get 1 year for $140, like put this to the test, get 1 year for $149, you get $40 off the cover price of the journal, or you can do this other like probably do a I'd offer the downsell afterwards for the $44 one. just because now you probably get more options for that lower one. Plus, they see the first one first. Maybe they get that. I'd probably flip it the other way around, but this is still good. The contrast still exists. It's still $44 versus $149. Now he thinks that $44 is a steal. But if you just compare $44 to $0, that's significantly more, right? In their mind, it now becomes the high option. But if you flip it around, it's the low option, right? It's always intelligent to give your readers something to compare it to, right? It's extremely important. Better buy. So again, he's trying to play into this, hey, look, here's the best way to save. Like, I'm giving you an option to be frugal. He's playing into that specific. Now you got to rewind the clock 20, 30 years when this letter came out. You got to rewind it to then in the business mores of American men then, who were the businessmen of America who bought the journal. Like, this is directly playing into their cultural, their values, right? Their values as American businessmen. You guys see that? Yeah, so it's a clear, like, this is a clear money win. Like someone in the chat said, especially with all the value you're receiving for 13 weeks, that's $44 nothing. Yeah, 13 weeks is a daily newspaper. It's a lot, right? Yeah, the downsell is the option they're trying to get here, but they're obviously opting or creating an option for the higher the upsell. And it's really like, this is the way they have it set up right now is they have it set up as a upsell. You can either do the $44 or you can buy the upsell of $149. I personally would have flipped it the other way. I would have gone for $149 and then presented the downsell and just assumed the more people would take the downsell that way, personally. But this is a valid method as well. They might have tested it out and realized that this one worked better. Again, you want to test out like how you structure your funnel. This is a sales letter funnel. You want to test out how it works and figure out which one maximizes your value or your profit and go with that. I'm assuming they did that. I probably would have initially tested the other way though. Levi, you got your hand up. What's your question?
So do you think he could have framed this price comparison a little bit better, like comparing it to something else, like coffees? So for the price of one coffee per week, you're going to get to try out the journal, which could change your finances forever.
I wouldn't have compared it to anything else. Like this gives him enough options for comparison. I would have focused on the value he was going to be getting out of it, right? I would have been like entirely like, you spend $44, you get 13 weeks of amazing insights, you can make $1 million from it, right? I would focus more on like, hey, you're gonna get an insane amount of value and all you have to pay is $44, right? That's probably what I would have gone. I probably wouldn't have been like, oh, it's like the cup of coffee. Like, again, you're theoretically thinking about who you're selling to here. This is like the young businessman, right? If you start focusing on the price of it, and comparing the price to this price to that price, you make the conversation in their mind about the price. You want to talk about the price as little as possible and focus on the value that you get, right? You want the conversation to be on the value that they're getting, and the price is an afterthought, right? If you focus on the price, focus on just the price, and like the price, and you talk about the price for like 3 pages, like they're gonna be thinking about the price and they're not gonna want it anymore, right? You want to talk about the value, right?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the way he's got to compare it is good. I probably would have added more. I agree with you. I think he needs to talk more about what they could be, like how much their life could change based on that 13 weeks of having the journal in their life. But yeah, I think so. Let's keep going.
It's kind of like how
Tate,
like he compares HU to like college and university, like traditional education and whatever.
Yeah.
He compares like you can make money online for like, he doesn't like mention, he does mention $50, right? But he says you can make money online in just like 6 months, 3 to 6 months. But if you take traditional education, you'll be in debt. And that takes like 4 to 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, he's highlighting like those are the two different paths, right? And when he talks about HU2, he barely mentions the price. It's like it's cheap, it's nothing. Like 40, like it's $50, like it's whatever, right? But you can become wealthy and make a bunch of money, and you can, right? Like that's the whole point. He's focused on the value and made the entire experience of HU2 being focused on that, like working hard and achieving that goal and becoming wealthy and making money, to where no one's really worried about the price. The people who are just they're focused on the wrong things. It should be focused on making all the money, because you can spend your energy in life on only one thing at a time, right? I find it's best to spend it on the things that bring me value, right? Which is working hard inside of HU2 to, learn to make more money if I was in your situation, for example, right? So, Yeah, so I think that's the point. Yeah, Jacob said something when Tate is talking about the $50. He almost always mentions how he has 110,000 students who always make their money back. Exactly, right? He'll mention the price, and then he talks immediately about the value that people are getting from it, right? It's all about the value, right? So you want to keep the conversation focused on the value. The price, it should be an afterthought. It should just be a tiny thing, which is what he's done here, right? It's just $44. It's whatever. It's easy offer. Or you can do 149. You save $40. Wham! Let's go to the rest of the page and see what else he does, because I'm pretty sure he takes and goes right back into the value they're going to get. So he says, simply fill out the enclosed order card and mail it to the postage paid envelope provided. And here's the journal's guarantee. Here we go. Guarantee value. Should the journal not measure up to your expectations, you may cancel this arrangement at any point and receive a refund for the undelivered portion of your subscription. Like, hey, you can always get your money back. You only have to sell. Like, you try it out for a day, you don't like it, you get all the money back for the rest of it, you're paid off, right? If you feel as we do that this, again, if you feel it as we do, he's trying to establish this form of rapport that, hey, we're all like, you're part of the cool business, the business people club, right? If you feel as we do that it's a fair and reasonable proposition, then you will want to find out without delay if the Wall Street Journal can do for you what it's doing for millions of readers. So please mail the enclosed order card now, and we will start serving you immediately. Again, it's all focused on value and figuring out about the value, understanding the value, being part of the big everybody else, like the safety amongst the peers or the groups of peers that he wants. Price is just, it's tiny. It doesn't even matter. Like, it's a fair and reasonable proposition. It's fair, easy. Yeah, right back into it. It's beautiful. Now let's look at how he finishes the last little part. Real quick. So I'm gonna read the chat. So Adam said, establish safety and credibility right there by mentioning there are millions of other readers. Yeah. So this is credible, right? There are so many people that are doing this. It's got to be a good decision for them. Like, they're still doing it. It's a good decision for them. It's a good decision for you too, right? I mean, human beings, like, if you guys haven't read the book Influenced by Robert Cialdini or whatever, that's a really good thing for you to start reading now that you're in the experience chat. He talks about some of these mechanisms that influencers or influence people who influence, not influencers as we understand them today, but people who influence use to cause people to do things. And one of them is like that social proof, right? It's the credibility, it's the safety that in numbers, right? Human beings, when we make decisions, just like pure actual like analytical decision making is high energy cost. If we sit down and actually analyze all the options and try and figure it all out ourselves, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. So in order to speed up that process, because you need to be able to make decisions quickly if you want to survive from the tiger, right? That's like chasing you down. You can't like pause everything and think for 12 hours before you make your next decision, right? You have to make your decision now. And one of the ways that we shortcut that is we see what everyone else is doing and we follow them. So if we see all the other tribe running that way, we don't stop and try and figure out why. We just start running and we try and figure out why as we go along, right? Oh, because there's a tiger. Oh, that's cool. Glad I didn't stop to figure that one out. You just keep running, right? Let him eat Tommy, the slow one, right? That's where social proof comes from here, right? Millions of other readers, you like me, do this, right? All millions of other smart business readers are doing this, right? It shortens the decision cycle because you can just say, oh, well, if they're still doing it, then I'll do it too, right? That's why social proof works. It's all about running away from tigers. So yeah, it was a good move here. Again, mentioned the price, moves on from price. Price is nothing. There's a guarantee. Your risks are taken care of. Look at all the value. Look at all the people that are receiving value. Let's keep going, right? Genius move there. So about those two college classmates I mentioned at the beginning of this letter, they were graduated from college together and together got started in the business world. So what made their lives in business different? So he's talking about the magnitude of this. This can affect your entire life, decades and decades of your life in business different. Knowledge, useful knowledge, and its application. So again, he's tied this solution or this product, the Wall Street Journal, back to that solution that's going to get them what they want, right? He's saying, hey, remember this product? Yeah, we talk about how cool the product is, but remember this product, what it really does is it gives you that knowledge, that useful knowledge, and how to apply it to have a better life. That's truly successful and amazing life, right? He's tied it back in. He's dipped down into the price, and then he's gone back into the big overarching thing that they really care about. He's connected to that pure hook. An investment in success. I cannot promise you that success will be instantly yours if you start reading the Wall Street Journal, but I can guarantee that you will find the journal always interesting, always reliable, always useful. Sincerely, whatever, the publisher, right? So this is really cool, right? Like it's an investment success. This is just a bullet point for them to hit. But his promise is on something that he's writing to a sophisticated market. He can't promise them, hey, I promise you that if you like instantly do this, you'll just like you start reading the journal and then you check your bank account, there's millions of dollars, right? Same thing with HU2, right? Like some people are like, you can't promise like you join and like as soon as you like enter your payment like, processor, you know, you enter your card into the thing, you're like, boom, you like go to check your bank account. Now you're a millionaire. Like obviously you have to do the work and it's difficult, right? Like there's still a challenge ahead of you. You have to like do the work and earn it, but you get the results from it here, right? Yeah, this avoids legal trouble, right? Like he's not making any claims that you can be countersued on, right? But he's promising, he's guaranteeing that that they'll find it interesting, reliable, and useful, right? He's focusing on the things that everybody with logic can say, yeah, he can actually guarantee that. He's not guaranteeing anything he can't actually guarantee. When someone makes a guarantee that you know is bullshit, it triggers your bullshit and radar and you don't want to buy because you know that it's a bad guarantee, right? This guy's making a solid guarantee. He's being reasonable while still offering and promising something that's extremely useful. And so he's trustworthy, right? People are willing to trust him and buy this, right? This is an intelligent move here. Because they know that they instantly can't be successful. They know that's true. But they can believe that the journal will be interesting, reliable, and useful. They can definitely believe that. So it was a good move. I really like this move. Yusuf, what do you got? Your hand's up.
So when I read it the first time, it kind of bumped me out a little bit. I was like, oh, that's a downplay. But then also on the other side, like the reader is already so emotionally invested, they don't really care. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it's not gonna make me successful right away, but look at this future. Like they even though it's just a tiny little part, he needs it inside. I feel like they don't really care about this last part though, because they want the future.
Well, yeah, and it's playing to their beliefs, right? Like think about like rewind the clock 20, 30, 40 years, even to like an American businessman, right? They believe in hard work and dedication and earning success. They don't believe in cheating, right? Like they're extremely honorable, right? Like they don't believe in that. They want to earn that, right? Which is something that a lot of people have lost in today's world, right? He's playing to that. He's trying to say, hey, look, I know that you're not going to become magically successful. This isn't a silver bullet. I'm not trying to sell some snake oil to you, right? I'm selling something that's going to give you the valuable information you need to become successful. And what you do with it is up to you, right? Like he's playing into that, right? And yeah, they don't want to get rich quick scheme. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a invest in success. This is a slow, easy compounding interest thing. This is like the safe American businessman play to make, right? Get the knowledge that you need to be successful, right? He's not saying buy this and become a millionaire tomorrow. Like that's not his target market, right? If that was his target market, maybe he'd write it a little bit differently. But his target market is like white shirt, black tie, American businessman, right? And this statement right here would resonate. They'd nod their head up and down, Like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's interesting. I'm tempted. I think it'd be really fun to actually. I know some people who fit this demographic back then. I'd love to. I might get them to read this and like get their thoughts on the sales letter. They probably read it back in the day and bought the Wall Street Journal because of it. But it'd be really interesting to get their. I'll see if I can get their. I'll see if I can get their feedback for it. But yeah, it's a good point, Yusuf. Hilltop, what do you got?
So I was reading the last line. I think the word guarantee has been kind of killed in the era of today's marketers because everybody guarantees everything pretty much, but they don't like back it up with anything. So maybe back then, since it was a more honorable environment in business, you can say, I can guarantee that you will find it interesting without promising. Like the word guarantee doesn't have any sort of dark aura around it, right?
Yeah.
As it does today. Like if somebody says, I can guarantee you'll make money, I can guarantee you'll find this useful, you're like, okay, but you have to show me, right? You can't just tell me.
And he's already proven that, right? He's proven that this letter itself is interesting, reliable, and something useful. Like he's at least provided the proof that this is interesting and useful, right? He's given them a letter with one little story that has actually shifted their brain. It's useful and entertaining, and like he's already proven that, right? So he's not really making a guarantee about something that's not believable, but he actually has a guarantee, like what we think is like an official guarantee up here. That like if they don't like it, the section right here, and here's the journal's guarantee. Should the journal not measure up to your expectations, you may cancel this arrangement at any point and receive a refund for the undelivered portion of your subscription. Boom, he's got a hard guarantee, and this is more of a soft guarantee, and it's a guarantee around something he's already proved, right? He's already proved that he can write, that he can provide at least interesting and useful material for them, right? So, yeah, this is This is not the endless empty guarantee. He's got a hard guarantee. And this other thing that he's guaranteeing at the end, he's already proved that he can do by writing the entire letter itself. Yeah, it's a lot different than the empty guarantees you see in today's world.
Yeah, and I like the last line almost sounds like a slogan, right? I like the fact that he takes advantage of triples. Always interesting, always reliable, always useful. It like sticks in your mind, and he plays with the word always. It's like, and especially it's a good note to finish on. That's what you're going to be remembering this letter with, essentially, when you leave this and when you start putting in the order for Wall Street Journal, right? That's what you're going to be. That's the mental note that he's leaving you with, essentially. I think that's pretty cool.
It's brilliant, right? It's beautiful. Levi, what do you got?
Yeah, also tying into Hilltop's point, I like that he doesn't have to promise the whole world to the audience. Like in today's environment, you don't have to promise a 50x return or things like that. You only have to promise an interesting, reliable, and useful journal. And I think that's pretty cool because people didn't really have the resistance which nowadays people have for these kinds of stuff, for promises.
Yeah, and this highlights the kind of the importance of the value equation. This is why I throw it in the beginner sprints, why it's so important to understand right from the beginning. The relationship between dream outcome and likelihood of success, they're interrelated, right? The higher the dream outcome that you provide, unless you can really back it up, right? If you're like, oh, I will give you 100x return on your money tomorrow, right? That's a big claim. It brings with it an implicit. People believe that it's not that likely to be achieved, right? They're like, oh well, there's a 95% chance that this is a bullshit scam, right? Just because of the nature of the promise, right? If you make a believable promise, it almost immediately maxes out your likelihood of being successful, right? He's promised them that he's going to give them useful information and that's interesting and reliable. They can believe that he can back up that guarantee, like 100%. They can believe that, right? At least 98%. So now, as long as he's produced a reasonable dream outcome that's worthwhile, that top part is maxed out, right? If he was to say, read this and I guarantee you'll become a millionaire, just like the millions of other people who have read this new journal, immediately the likelihood of achieving the result drops to nothing, right? He's making a believable claim and he's backing it up. And that's what makes it powerful, right? So with your clients, it's important that you guys do this, right? You need to understand it's better to make a good, bold claim that's going to take them towards something that they're like, but still believable, than to try and make something that's larger in their life and maybe not really believable and try and pull it off, right? It's usually better to create a really good claim that's actually tied to a key part of the success that's going to change their lives and it's going to give them what they want, but in a way that's believable and trustworthy enough. Like that's a better route. That's a higher likelihood of success outcome than if you try and just go like, no, learn these 3 words and any woman you want will instantly be yours no matter what. Like everyone knows that's bullshit, right? Like there's so much more that goes into that. But if you promise, hey, like, learn this important text opener, I guarantee that you'll have more conversations with women than you did before. Like you can pull that off. People will believe that and they'll buy that, right? They'll buy that way more than like some, at least like an avatar that has like an IQ above like 35. Anyone above that will actually buy the more believable product, right? As long as it's tied to something good that they want and moves them towards a dream outcome, right? And this is a good example of someone who executed on this and made billions of dollars because of it. Yeah. Klaus, what do you got?
Yeah, I think there was a PS section also with an extra benefit.
Let's go down to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at all the questions. I'm like, oh, well, we'll see when we get to the PS. So
yeah, right.
PS,
the subscription price might be tax deductible.
Tax deductible. Ask your tax advisor.
Yeah, it's like the icing on the cake, right? Like to sweeten the deal.
By the way, it's free.
It's free, yeah.
Yeah,
would that
basically.
work today? Would that be effective today though? Because I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, if your product is tax deductible, you can mention that. And it's interesting because he says ask your tax advisor, so he's not going to get sued if they try and claim it as a tax deduction and they do it wrong and they don't get it claimed, like it doesn't come out as a deduction. He's like, no, I told you to ask your tax advisor. Like he's covered he's hedged his bets. But if your product is a tax exemption because it's a business product or a course for something that they need, then yeah, you can definitely do this too. You can definitely say it's a tax advisor, tax subscription, which then makes it free in their mind. In their mind, if it's a tax deduction, they're like, well, I was going to pay the government anyways. I might as well take that money and pay it towards having the Wall Street Journal, for sure. Yeah. Good move. Good thing to call out, Klaus. Jacob, what do you got?
Yeah, and also, so he like presented every objection and then debunked them, and then he also puts a grand slam offer like in the middle, somewhere on the second page. Like if you don't find this like useful, you can also always cancel and get a refund. And I feel like back in the 70s, I don't think that was like very known like it is today. Like low risk, grand slam offer.
They actually were. You'd be surprised, right? So like Alex Ramosi, the guy who came up with $100 million offers, he got all this from like the greats from the before, right? The value equation, like the way that he's structured the frameworks for thinking about it, it's Alex Ramosi, and he's a genius when it comes to actually describing how to use these ideas. But people have been using these ideas since the dawn of time, right? Dan Kennedy taught Alex Ramosi a lot of the actual content that he knows. A lot of these greats back in the day, Gary Halpert, all those OGs, they did all those same things. They just didn't like have the best framework for teaching a ton of people how to do it. Like what we've done, kind of like this generation, what we've done is we've kind of taken those ideas and we've gotten a lot better at synthesizing them and teaching them. Like those guys couldn't teach it the way we can. We can all teach it better, right? So still, yes, it was a lot more rare because there's only maybe like 10 people in the world that understood how to do it predictably. Now there's a lot more of us to do. But yeah, this is something that's been done for a long time. But yeah, this has all the elements. Like that's what makes it, even though it was written way back when, we can take it and we can take it and we can analyze it today and get value from it because it was the same core principles of work, right? Yeah, it's clear stuff. Well, guys, it's been a good call. We've gone over a classic ad. We've identified some important lessons from this. What questions do you have for me? Any questions at all about this? Any comments you'd like to add about this letter before we wrap this up?
I definitely have to watch replay again.
All right. Yeah, the replay is gonna be good. I like doing these. I like having you guys on and we analyze like this, good copy and we discuss some cool stuff and we give the guys who aren't in the experience chat, a little preview into some of the cool things we talk about in here. So I like giving them a good sense of FOMO by just giving them just a taste on one of these calls. So yeah, it's been good. If you guys have questions, go ahead and send them to me in the experience chat and we will talk about them there. But let's wrap this one up and we will do this again next week. I will talk with you guys later.